On August 6, 2016, an icon passed away. The world-renowned natural herbalist, pathologist, biochemist, and healer Alfredo Darrington Bauman, better known as Dr. Sebi, died of pneumonia while in police custody. Since then, his death has been shrouded in mystery. People are asking, how did the man that claimed to have cured all diseases die from pneumonia? Did Dr. Sebi actually eat the prison food? Why was no bail set for Dr. Sebi? How come his imprisonment was only known in South and Central America via the internet? Why was there no official autopsy report disclosed? And then, of course, the million-dollar question, why was Dr. Sebi walking around Honduras with $30,000 on him? Some people may point out that there has been over 50 holistic doctors that have died in the past year. And what makes Dr. Sebi so special? Well, unlike other holistic doctors, Dr. Sebi is the only holistic doctor that got arrested and went to the Supreme Court because he claimed that he had cured his patients of sickle cell, herpes, diabetes, lupus, blindness, and even AIDS. But after bringing forth diagnostic sheets and 77 of his patients, Dr. Sebi eventually won the case. Some people may say, well, if there was a conspiracy to kill Dr. Sebi, why did they wait so long? They could have killed him a long time ago. Well, when you think of the elites or the powers that be, just think of the movie Saw, where the serial killer could easily kill his victims, but instead he plays with them. He gives them hope and even the illusion of freedom. Think of another movie called Cube, where the controllers could easily kill their victims, but instead they have them in a maze of cubes, with death traps around each corner. This is the mentality of the elites. They don't seek for their victims to have an instant death. That's too easy. They would rather their victims roam for years with the illusion of freedom until they fall into one of their many traps, like the judicial system or the prison system. But what made Dr. Sebi a target? And why now? Well, simply put, they've been tracking Dr. Sebi for years. Ever since he beat the Supreme Court case, they have had their eye on him. They wanted revenge. They wanted to teach him a lesson for running his mouth. But what was the information that made Dr. Sebi so dangerous? Well, Dr. Sebi said, there's only one disease: mucus. More specifically, an oxygen-deprived acidic body will foster mucus, which will cause diseases. Essentially, no diseases can live in an alkaline body. Now, this information is not new. Dr. Warburg said basically the same thing in the 1920s. But Sebi took it a step further and claimed that diseases are not caused by a virus, germs, or bacteria. He claims that all diseases are caused by your diet. I guess this would explain why koala bears are getting chlamydia, gorillas in zoos are getting diabetes, dogs are getting gonorrhea, virgins are being diagnosed with genital herpes, and thousands of people are being cured from STDs, lupus, sickle cell, diabetes, cancer, and many other diseases after they change their diet. This is dangerous information, but the elites even today feel very secure that people will remain on an acidic diet. There was no urgency to get rid of Dr. Sebi right away, but just like Jigsaw, they waited for him to fall into their trap. The trap being the prison in Honduras. They had something special for Dr. Sebi, an ironic death. The death of a holistic doctor. A rich holistic doctor with thousands of dollars in his pocket dies of pneumonia. Although previously he claimed to have the cure for all diseases, he failed to cure himself. This is the memory they wanted to leave behind. One of irony and ridicule.
Now it's time to bring in the master.
Now let's take a look at what happened to Dr. Sebi. Now there's a couple of bullet points that I want to discuss. The first is, who is Dr. Sebi? How he cured AIDS, the remedy for all diseases, the boogeyman, what to eat, memorable quotes, self-control and rhetoric of a simp, where I disagree with the doctor, the haters, why they killed Dr. Sebi, and lastly, my final thoughts. Now let's take a look at who is Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi was born Alfredo Darrington Baumann in Honduras in 1933, and he learned the craft of herbal healing from his grandmother. Sebi later studied with a Mexican herbalist and began a line of products dubbed Cell Food. Dr. Sebi was admitted into an insane asylum in New Jersey in 1961 for schizophrenia and paranoia. At age 30, Dr. Sebi had diabetes. He was impotent, he was asthmatic, and he wore glasses. After going to many medical institutions, he went to a Mexican who told him he was dying and he needed to stop eating. He recommended that Dr. Sebi fast for 90 days. After the 90-day fast, Dr. Sebi claimed he was no longer impotent, asthmatic, diabetic, or needed to use his glasses. Dr. Sebi originally worked as a sea merchant and then a steam engineer. However, in 1980, he decided to quit and practice medicine full-time. In 1987, Dr. Sebi advertised in the Village Voice, the Amsterdam News, and the New York Post that he has cured impotence, herpes, diabetes, sickle cell, blindness, cancer, lupus, and AIDS, among other diseases. On February 10th of 1987, Dr. Sebi was arrested and charged with practicing medicine without a license. Dr. Sebi claimed the state was unprepared to defend itself. The past 2,781 cases before him lost, but he eventually won. He had diagnostic sheets that came from their institutions which proved his patients eventually no longer had their disease. The judge said he had to bring one of every patient he had cured. He was supposed to take 9, but instead he brought 77 of his patients who were cured. After being found not guilty, Dr. Sebi went on to expand his brand, do lectures, and has treated several high-profile individuals, including the late Michael Jackson and the late Lisa Left Eye Lopez of TLC. In this section, we're going to talk about how Dr. Sebi cured AIDS. Dr. Sebi claims he has created compounds to cleanse the cells. These compounds are made of phosphates, carbonates, iodides, and bromides. In addition to these compounds, he changes the person's diet by removing meat, lactose, starches, carbonic acid, and uric acid. This removes mucus buildup and creates an alkaline environment which no disease can survive in. According to Dr. Sebi, a person with AIDS is basically someone with mucus in the lymphatic system, skin, and blood. By removing the mucus, the person is cured of AIDS. Now in this section, let's talk about what Dr. Sebi claims is the remedy for all diseases. Now again, according to Dr. Sebi, all diseases are caused by mucus. There's also been times where he has been quoted saying there's only one disease: mucus. Now when we listen to his lectures, Dr. Sebi goes into more detail and says that all diseases are created from an acidic condition. In other words, your body has an acidic environment instead of an alkaline one. An acidic environment in conjunction with oxygen deprivation and mucus buildup gives the person the disease. Depending on where in the body the mucus is determines the name given to the disease. For example, if someone has sinusitis, mucus is blocking the nasal passage. When a person has bronchitis, mucus is blocking the bronchial tubes. When someone has AIDS, mucus is in the lymphatic system, skin, and blood. Dr. Sebi concluded that by cleansing the body of mucus and creating an alkaline environment, all diseases can be cured. So what is the boogeyman? These boogeymen are germs, viruses, and bacteria. According to the book Nutricide, bacteria of all types are generally present in the body at all times. So-called contagious bacteria are found in people without diseases as well as those with diseases. Bacteria increases in numbers when they have fermented or constipated food supply of uneliminated waste or dead cells. Some people will ask, if disease are caused by your diet, then what causes warts, bumps, blisters, etc.? This is caused by the body trying to get rid of waste and dead cells. This is called a cleansing process or healing crisis. Europeans call this a disease or STD. Europeans label the garbage disposal action of bacteria as the disease instead of the cause of waste accumulation as the disease. They therefore treat the bacteria instead of eliminating the waste. The fear of germs, catching a cold, infections, STDs, are superstitions, terrorism created for the body by the elites, boogeymen for the uninformed. The elites have previously classified cancer, asthma, and pneumonia as contagious and later removed it from the contagious disease list. Lies change, but the truth never changes. Let's look at some studies. At the end of World War II, the U.S. Naval had several STD-infected people have sexual intercourse with non-infected people. The STD-infected people did not infect those without. Then we have the Rockefeller Institute, who sponsored Dr. Noguchi's experiment whereby he had contagious infected people attempt to infect others. The result was that the disease-free people were not infected. You see, some of you so-called blacks who claim you're against white supremacy actually love white supremacy. You love the lies, you love the illusions, you will defend it to the death. I'm unsubscribing. You're an agent. You're advocating unprotected sex. Nope, not an agent, not advocating unprotected sex, but this is the truth. What do you think the Tuskegee syphilis experiment was about? An unsuccessful attempt by the elites to spread the disease amongst blacks. Prove me wrong. Prove to me that STDs are contagious. Send me the documents and sources. I did my research. Let's talk about it. Here we have Discover magazine, which says we know, for example, that gonorrhea came from cattle to humans. Syphilis also came to humans from cattle or sheep many centuries ago, possibly sexually. Keyword possibly, but most likely it was transmitted by eating the sick animals. People, we have to think. Then we have historically David Livingstone, an invader of Africa, who noted that Europeans with syphilis could not sexually transmit the disease to Africans. Whoa! Whoa! But hey, what do I know? I'm just a YouTuber. Keep listening to your doctors with degrees. Keep taking the drugs they prescribe. Keep taking your vaccinations, or the boogeyman will get you. So in this section, we're going to talk about what to eat. Now remember, we stated before that the diet that you have will increase or decrease your chance in getting a disease. Now, although eating alkaline foods are recommended, everything you eat doesn't have to be alkaline. You can eat some acidic foods. The healthiest alkaline to acid ratio is 4:1, or 80% alkaline and 20% acidic. This ratio gives optimum health and protection against diseases. Also, keep in mind that just like sugar is turned into fat, excess animal or vegetable protein is also converted into fat and stored in the body. Now let's take a look at some categories of information you need to master in order to have optimum health. The first category we need to review is acidic versus alkaline foods. The second is the best food combinations. Third is a list of healthy food alternatives. And fourth is a list of ingredients to avoid. Now, generally, alkaline-forming foods include most fruits, vegetables, peas, beans, lentils, spices, herbs, etc. Here are some examples of alkalizing foods. Now, generally, acid-forming foods include meat, eggs, and grains. Here are some examples of acidifying foods. Now, let's take a look at some of the best or correct food combinations. For optimal health, one should never mix starches with meat. For example, bread sandwich and hamburger. Ideally, animal protein or vegetable protein should not be mixed with carbohydrates. Next up, we have one should never mix sugar with starches, fruits, or proteins. Next up, we have one should never mix oil with starches or meats. For example, fried potatoes or fried meats. This is because the digestive system only receives one signal at a time. Once the fried food enters the stomach, the brain receives the signal to digest oil. After the breakdown of the oil, the digestive fluids must switch to an alkaline or acid fluid to break down the starch or meat. However, while the oil was being broken down, the starch or meat became fermented or rotten, which creates toxins and destroys your health. Next up, we have one should never mix sweet fruits with green fruits, or sweet fruits and grains. For example, mangoes and cucumbers, or strawberry and rice. Now let's look at a list of healthy substitutes for junk foods. You can substitute white flour with whole grain flour like spelt, amaranth, gammet, etc. You can substitute white and brown sugar with date sugar, maple syrup, stevia, etc. Meats can be substituted with beans, nuts, textured vegetable protein, wheat gluten, etc. Dairy ice cream can be substituted with soybean ice cream, rice ice cream, almond ice cream, tofu ice cream, etc. Now let's take a look at a list of food ingredients we should avoid. We have a long list of food ingredients we should avoid. I'll just name a couple of the popular ones. Aspartame, BHA, BHT, monosodium glutamate, high fructose corn syrup, artificial coloring, sucralose, sodium chloride, soy unless it's fermented and organic, and the list goes on and on and on. Now in this section, let's take a look at some memorable quotes from Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi claims he did not want to be a healer. He wanted to chill, smoke cocaine, and snort it. Dr. Sebi claims that tofu is 100 times worse than pork. He also claims sugar came from Europe. He was once quoted saying a gorilla doesn't eat polar bear food. If it did, it would get sick and eventually die. He once said, "There is no black leader in America that is interested in the health of the black race. The Christian diet needs to be re-examined." He has never attended any school, not even kindergarten. He claims he's been married 4 times and once came and saw his wife in bed with another man and wasn't even mad. All African people eat is blood and starch, nothing else. Dr. Sebi was once quoted saying his goal is to help Africa. Now in this section, we're going to talk about self-control and rhetoric of a simp. We're going to take a look at some quotes from Dr. Sebi that have made people wonder if Dr. Sebi had self-control and if he was a simp. Dr. Sebi has admitted that although he had 3 wives, he still got a 19-year-old pregnant outside of wedlock. He has also stated he has never had a father or stepfather. Dr. Sebi claims he doesn't follow men, he follows women. He was once quoted saying, "Mother is the greatest gender on the planet." He has claimed he has been breastfed for 4 years. During an interview while speaking about his wives leaving him, Dr. Sebi stated that the love that will secure you through life is the love you offer yourself, not the love of a woman that comes and goes. So the question is, did Dr. Sebi have self-control and was he a simp? Well, based on what he's stated in the past about multiple marriages, children out of wedlock, taking drugs, I tend to believe he didn't have much self-control. How did he manage to do that 90-day fast? Most likely because it was necessary. He was impotent, he had diabetes, he had asthma, so there was a necessity for him to do the 90-day fast. But as far as self-control, I don't think he had much. But again, I'm just looking from the outside in. I don't know Dr. Sebi. Now, when it comes to him being a simp, I can't say for sure if he was a simp or not, but I can say definitely he spewed the rhetoric of a simp. Now let's take a look at where I disagree with the doctor. He was once quoted saying that we should love our enemy. He once said that there is no up or down, no superior or inferior, no wrong or right. He once said he is not wise, and to be wise, you have to go to school. He once said smoking weed is healthy. Now, I don't think I need to elaborate on why I disagree with these things, but you can leave your comment below and let me know if you agree or disagree with what Dr. Sebi has stated. In this section, we're going to take a look at the haters. Now, while researching, I have discovered 2 sources of hate. We have the first hater from the ripoff website where he claims he was at the Usha village being treated, but he left before the next payment date came around. A person is in a village being healed and they leave before their next payment date and they are saying that the healer is a ripoff. Someone explain this to me. The next hater that I encountered is Ringo TV Raw, who is basically a delusional Christian with dreams of being a polygamist. He claims Dr. Sebi is a businessman, not a healer. Although Dr. Sebi brought forth 77 of his patients during his Supreme Court case, which helped him get the not guilty verdict. But hey, who needs facts when you could just create sensationalized titles to try and get views? Pathetic. You guys can check out these haters and leave a comment below and let me know what you think. So now let's take a look at why they killed Dr. Sebi. According to Dr. Sebi's friend, Dr. Sebi was set up. He was given bad legal advice stating he could carry more than $10,000 on him as long as he states it to the authorities. He did just that and still got arrested for money laundering. In addition, there was never a bail set for Dr. Sebi, so we can conclude that they had no intentions of letting him free. He was given prison food, which I believe he ate because he thought that he would be released at some point and then have the ability to do a detox and cleanse his system. His family did try to get him out of prison to no avail. Although his imprisonment was censored from North America, even if it wasn't, I doubt anyone could do anything to get him out. I do not believe he committed suicide. I do not believe he had pneumonia. I believe he was misdiagnosed and poisoned, which would explain why there is no official autopsy report. Now the big question is, why? Well, Dr. Sebi had enemies in Honduras, in the medical industry, in the FBI, and others. At the end of the day, they killed Dr. Sebi because they wanted revenge. They wanted to make an example of the doctor. Dying from complications of pneumonia is the cover story they decided to use for the murder of Dr. Sebi. Now let's take a look at my final thoughts. The idea that curing a disease is so simple shocks a lot of people. We've been taught for so long that life is so complex that we've been looking for complex solutions for simple problems. Leonardo da Vinci once said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." Back in the 1800s, we had homeopathic doctors and allopathic doctors to choose from. The allopathic doctors call their approach heroic medicine. They believe that the physician must aggressively drive disease from the body. The allopaths had three techniques. They bled the body, they gave toxic chemicals in an attempt to displace the original disease, or they used surgery, which was a brutal procedure before anesthesia and infection control. The empiric healers, or the homeopathic doctors, believe that one should stimulate the body's defenses so it can heal itself. Instead of toxic minerals, they used vegetable products and herbs. Unfortunately, people like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and Rockefeller saw there was money to be made, and so they transformed medicine into an industry and supported the money-making surgery, radiation, and synthetic drugs on the side of the allopathic doctors. Profit and greed is what it boils down to. They did the same thing with the car industry. Today we're still using 200-year-old technology. We can look at Nikola Tesla. He had inventions for free energy and wireless electricity. But instead the banksters suppress his inventions and charge for energy. This is similar to what they have done to the human body. Instead of using free medicine that nature provides, they create synthetic chemicals based on natural herbs that they patent and then charge you for. It comes to a point where they have run out of diseases, so now they're creating synthetic viruses. There is no new diseases unless it's created. Dr. Sebi once said that most of his clients are white. I know many blacks feel that whites fear genetic annihilation, but I beg to differ. With all due respect to the late Francis Cress Welsing, I have to disagree that whites fear being wiped out, especially the elites. Families like the Rothschilds and Rockefeller don't fear genetic annihilation by way of interracial marriage. Before anyone in that bloodline marries an outsider, they would be killed. Currently, whites are generally more healthy than black Americans because they can afford a more healthy lifestyle, and their neighborhoods are not surrounded by Kennedy Fried Chicken and so many fast food restaurants. You would be hard pressed to find any healthy food alternatives in a supermarket in a black neighborhood because the owners refuse to order these healthy food alternatives because they are too expensive and they know their black customers won't buy it. Essentially, black Americans buy their food based on the cost and not the quality of the product. And although this is mostly because of poverty, There also is a toxic mentality that if someone is eating healthy, they're eating white. But if someone is eating soul food, they're eating black. So before anyone talks about the theory of whites fearing genetic annihilation by way of a black dick, we must first focus on the fact of black nutricide, the nutritional destruction of the black race. If it wasn't for whites, there would be no vegan movement or manufacturing and distribution of vegan products worldwide. Truth be told, this toxic diet that most of us are raised on was created for the hybrids, for those in the royal families. This acidic diet is for people that can eat anything: glass, rocks, sand. It's not for the average human. Dr. Sebi once said that you can't feed a polar bear what you feed a gorilla, or you will die. We're not all humans. We don't all bleed blood. All non-blacks seem to have a strong hold on technology, corporations, manufacturing, and distribution. Non-blacks have no interest in cures, only the profit that is generated from medical treatments. Perhaps Black Americans, this is an opportunity to conquer uncharted territory and be the authority figures on healing and producing cures. Perhaps this is your calling, to be the ones to use nature and heal the world. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, and until next time, this is Conspiracy Dude.